This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum's exhibition, A Mawaka Boafo, Soul of Black Folks. This is the debut solo exhibition tour for Ghanaian artist Mawaka Boafo, one of the most acclaimed contemporary artists of his generation. The exhibition features over 30 paintings that tell stories about the beauty and complexity of Black life. Boafo's unique style is characterized by vibrant colors and thick gestures shaped by techniques such as finger painting. The exhibition is on view now until February 19th at the Denver Art Museum. Get your tickets today at denverartmuseum.org. Today on CityCast Denver, the Tattered cover filed for bankruptcy this week. So we're asking, will this holiday season be the iconic bookstore's last? Plus, book bans, bad bridges, and goodbye Bandcamp. Today is Friday, October 20th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city where you soon may be able to buy psilocybin edibles. New York Times columnist, watch out. Who wrote that? Was it Maureen O'Dowd that did the piece, Paul?
That sounds familiar.
Where she's like, I ate too much edibles. Here's my horrible
Denver's
story
scary.
about it. I was like,
Denver's
what
so
editor
scary.
greenlit this story? Come on. Psilocybin edibles, just like chocolate, mushrooms and chocolate, I'm guessing?
The Westward Story had a picture of like little like truffles, like little bonbons.
Cute.
Fancy looking. I don't really get the appeal, to be honest.
I mean, think about it. I remember when I was in high school, people are like, you want to do mushrooms? They get grown on cow shit. And you're like, no, why would I want to do that?
I guess this is better than that.
Yeah. I'm on antidepressants, so I can't take them. But have fun, you know? Do you. It's Friday. We're in the 5280 Magazine studios. You've heard Paul, my producer.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
good morning.
We have a great guest today. She's a returning guest. We had her on a year ago to talk about her amazing horror novel, White Horse. And the paperback is out this month ahead of Halloween. Erica T. Worth, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back.
I don't mean to fawn over you again, but I loved White Horse so much, in part because I could just wander around the city and see all the places that exist in the book.
Absolutely. Yep. I grew up 40 minutes from here. So, yep.
You know the city so well. Well, we're talking today about the Tattered cover bankruptcy, and we were like, who better to talk about this than an author, a person we have right here that deals with the sort of book-selling system. The big story, though, this week is they've now filed for bankruptcy. Interim CEO Brad Dempsey says he plans to lay off 27 employees and shutter 3 stores, the Westminster, Colorado Springs, and the new flagship McGregor Square store downtown, all in an effort to streamline the business and put it in a position for a bounce back. Erica, I want to start with you. You're an author. Tattered cover has probably sold a lot of your book. What does this mean to you?
I think ultimately I would be ecstatic if it stays in existence in any form because, when I was a kid, that's where we would go.
Yeah.
We would go to, my dad would take me to the Tattered cover and I was super nerdy. And so he would go wherever, and then I would go to the nerd section. And that original Tattered cover in Cherry Creek was so immense. It was truly like a dream.
I have dreams about it.
Yeah, it's like, the kind of thing when a bookstore in a magical place.
It exists in a book. It was a bookstore that existed in a book. It had it was dark wood and beautiful little coves to sit in and the green carpet that was so iconic. And it felt like a special place. Paul, did you get to go to that one?
Never went to that one, but I have these exact same feelings about Tattered cover, but
really?
About the old downtown location across from Union Station.
Yes.
They somehow found another place that had the exact same feeling, the same exposed wood, that weird creepy guy, that doll thing.
The grandpa that was in a chair reading a newspaper and it's a sculpture. Do you remember this? We'll find a picture of it and you'll be like, oh, that guy used to be, he was on the landing at Cherry Creek in one of the stairways for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what, Paul, what's funny to me is we're in this era where we're recreating experiences, immersive everything. And it's we're trying to recreate what made places fun, which was atmosphere. You know what I mean? We're missing that. I feel like a lot of times it's the atmosphere part is missing. I talk about this a lot with restaurants, but
about new Are there new bookshops that are you talking about like other Tattered Cover locations that opened like McGregor Square? Because that place did not really. I understand why they're closing that one.
It didn't
I
have
went
the
there
vibe.
a few times. It always had low inventory, which I've talked to some people that seems like that's been a persistent issue. But it didn't. It had those like glass windows. It just felt harsh. Like I did not like the vibe. Just did not feel like a bookstore to me.
Well, and Erica, you're talking about it being a kid and going to this special place and then getting to be the author with the book on the shelf at that place. That's like kind of a full circle moment.
Yeah, I definitely, and I have, I do love the new Tattered cover, and I did love the Lodo location. And I'm near Aspen Grove, and so like I love that it's there, and they love horror there. But yeah,
Cool.
It definitely. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer almost immediately, and I have no idea why, because I knew nobody who was a writer. So yes, that was absolutely something that at a certain point, for whatever reason, occurred to me. Like, my God, I could be on one of those shelves. So yeah, it is super cool.
And that feels like extra hard, I think, when you're like, wait, this place that I wanted to be so badly, I got to, and now I don't know if it's going to exist anymore. Paul, you know what? Can you give us a little bit of the backstory of how we got here to this bankruptcy conversation? Because Tattered Covers had a pretty rough last couple of years.
Yeah, I think most people know the big stuff, which is like Joyce Meskis, the longtime owner, First Amendment champion. She retired in 2015, passed the Tattered cover on to these two people who ran it for a few years, made a very, what some people saw as unfortunate statement on the Black Lives Matter movement back in the summer of 2020. There was a big blowback. I don't think they ever really recovered. I mean, also there was a pandemic happening, and they run a bookstore, and
they run a bookstore that's very experience-based.
Powerful company that can deliver a book to your stoop called Amazon, and that's tough to compete with during a pandemic. So that was clearly not going well. And then this local group of rich dudes lent by the likes of DeVita's Kent Theory, but also a newcomer, a new face who we're going to have to talk about, Kwame Spearman. He came in, he's part of the ownership group still, and he was the CEO, and then he went to run for mayor, and then he dropped out, and now he's running for school board. And then they got this new CEO, Dempsey, who's a Republican, who's also kind of like a free speech guy, but he's basically coming in to run the bankruptcy.
I want to touch on something you mentioned, Paul, which was during the first sort of change of ownership. Like you said, the owners made this very unfortunate statement about Black Lives Matter, and it was kind of convoluted and weird about where they stood around what they sold. And it was not good. And I remember there were many, many, many writers in this city that came together and were like, we're against this. We're openly opposing this statement by this bookstore that's been so important to us. Erica, do you remember that moment, or were you part of that conversation?
Yeah. And there's so many, I feel like the thing that I'm starting to learn as a writer, as I become more and more visible, and what that means is you really don't want to die on very many hills.
Yeah.
Why would they want to die on that hill?
Yeah.
That's a dumb hill to die on. And that made me sad. So
I feel you. It just felt weird. It felt off from. We'll find the statement and we can share it so folks can have better context, because I'm not doing a great job of explaining what it was, but it just was like felt very counter to what Tattered Cover has been for a long time, which was Joyce Meskis was a free speech advocate. I mean, she was someone that openly opposed authorities being able to see what her customers had purchased, right? That was one of her big things.
I wonder though how much these politics really affected the brand and how much people like related to Tattered Cover. Because I know when Kwame Spearman was running for mayor, like many people, I agree with him about some things. I disagree with him about a lot of things. He's a politician and he's the CEO of this company. He kind of represents them. Like, that's such an odd business choice. I actually got a chance to talk to Kwame earlier this week about all this. And he told me, now this is obviously him talking, but he told me that the sales numbers didn't go down after he ran for mayor. They stayed the same. So whatever his opponents or supporters felt, if they shopped more or less, it didn't affect the health of the business. So I kind of suspect, I don't remember, that 2020 summer was like a whole different world now. It's hard to get back in that mindset, but I wonder how much these controversies have actually affected the fundamentals.
Yeah, I think I feel like it's a combination of all those things. Like, it's adding on to something that was already shifting, which is this conversation about where we buy books. If we buy books, you know what I mean? Like, I'm also thinking about when Joyce was running Tattered Cover, there was huge controversy over her stance on the camping ban. And she tried to explain it. I'm not going to defend her or say what she said, but I wondered if that impacted the business in the same way, and maybe not. But I think, I don't know. We're, like you said, Paul, we're looking at a different time. 2015, when Joyce was in charge versus the summer of 2020, for sure. Maybe the Tattered Cover just never recovered from the pandemic, which a lot of businesses didn't.
I think when I saw the news break earlier this week, the response I saw was they expanded too rapidly. That's what the current CEO, Dempsey, was saying. He said, we had all these stores. It was just too much. We couldn't supply them all. I think it's different stores were profitable and others weren't. That's what Kwame told me, at least. Like the McGregor Square one, he said, has suffered. The numbers have not been good.
Interesting.
And he says downtown's a hard place to do business right now. And how many times have we heard that from business owners lately?
Well, and Erica, you mentioned you go to the Aspen Grove location, which I think maybe some folks don't even know that it's there, but it is every time I'm in there, it's doing great.
It's bustling. And, honestly, I think a lot of these things have to do, obviously, with like Amazon and the way corporate America is allowed to do what it wants. And like, obviously, we're not like Germany. We don't subsidize bookstores, and we should. And book selling.
They subsidize bookstores in Germany?
They absolutely do. Yeah.
I had no idea.
But because
that's fascinating.
Right. I mean, to be fair, like, and I want to be clear, like, I am pro remote work and I am pro ebook and I am pro things that allow people to have their lives as they stand in the most humane way possible. But I also love the idea that I feel like maybe millennials like are better at than I think people my age and older, which is, what's an entirely new way to do this to retain some of the things we like, even in this corporate hellhole? And for example, the Aspen Grove store, some of the reason why it's bustling is just because out in the suburbs, like some people live there because they got to live there. And they also have a specialty, which is horror. The guy who works there, he prioritizes horror writers, and he gets people like Chuck Wendig, who was there just the other day, to read there. And that's got a huge nerd audience, a huge horror audience. And so he's smart. And I think that's a way to do it, is to make, like, okay, ebooks are fine, and maybe there's a way that, Tattered Cover could sell ebooks. I don't know. But the other part of it is like, okay, if we're going to be like physically in person with physical objects, how can you make it? Yeah. How can you make it like fun in an event, specific?
Kwame said that they had a lot of success with events. He said that was a big priority for him when he came in. But the other point that he made, and maybe it's explained some of this, is that, and once you hear it, it's like, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. A book, you pay the same price no matter where the store is. So if it's McGregor Square, where they have really high rents and really high labor costs, you still pay $20 for a paperback of Whitehorse. Whereas out in Westminster, or maybe in the Colorado Springs, that's $20 everywhere.
Yeah, I guess for me that would be like, it's easier to park at Aspen Grove.
Yeah,
all those things.
But also something, Erica, you touched on, which is so crucial that has been lost in the world of the algorithm and all of it. It's not lost. People talk about it all the time. You're talking about a human curating something, and that draws people in. Someone's taste is evident in that store, and people that are gravitating towards that taste go to that store. So they might go to the Aspen Grove Tattered Cover and not the other ones for that exact reason. And then they bring their friends who are also into that.
Absolutely.
And horror is huge. We're in the middle of horror season right now.
Yes.
Like Halloween season is, it makes so much sense. And that is so interesting to know that if you are a horror person, you go to this particular Tattered Cover to see what this person has brought to the shelves. Because book buyers are tastemakers. It happens within the public library as well. So do you know what they're going to do with McGregor Square? I feel like that's the hottest topic of these three stores because it's right in the middle of downtown. It's right in the middle of this brand new development. It was touted as this. I feel like Kwame explained how it was going to be this like beautiful build. It was like the way that the store was being built was as beautiful or supposed to be as beautiful as the previous stores. What are they going to do with it now?
No idea. I assume they break the lease. That's the way these things work. And the way this bankruptcy is happening, and it's actually a really important point. It's not the scariest kind of bankruptcy, which is the one where the bankruptcy court forces you to liquidate so your creditors can get something. It's the reorganization kind. So now what the bankruptcy court is doing is negotiating or facilitating negotiation with the Tattered Cover and their creditors. This is why the CEO was flying off to New York. He was talking to publishing companies where they owe a bunch of money for back-ordered books. They're just trying to negotiate a good price and help the creditors see that the company is worth more alive than dead. So what's going to happen with the McGregor Square location? I think they're going to probably try to offload that lease.
Yeah.
Probably try to get rid of those assets, show these creditors that they can survive.
You asked Kwame about those leases, right? Was that under his leadership that they signed those leases?
He says he did support the growth strategy. And that was the thing that we always associated him with, these expansions to Colorado Springs and Westminster and et cetera. But the leases specifically in Westminster and McGregor Square, he says they were signed before he became CEO. And he says that the McGregor Square was suffered especially from the pandemic. Those were pre-2019 leases. And the Westminster one, he said, the development in that area never caught up. It never came to the place that he says they were told it was going
promised.
to. But, you know, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. You know, it's development in real estate.
That's fleeting. You can't.
Yeah.
I just want to speak to one more aspect of this, which is laying off 27 people. Generally, folks that work at bookstores care a lot about books and reading and cultivating readers. And it's just one of those, like, I don't know if it's like a passion job, but it is definitely something that people, a lot of folks I know that have worked at Tattered Cover over the years is because they love books. And I just feel for them in this moment too, because I don't know, losing your job sucks. And I also, mentioning the liquidation thing, Paul, I've worked through a liquidation. It's the most demeaning,
really?
It's the most demeaning experience ever because people are literally coming into the place where you work and buying things out from under you. Like, well, I'll buy this display case. I still have stuff on it. Okay, well, I'm going to buy it because it's for sale.
If Tattered,
it's awful. It's an awful experience as a retail person.
Heart goes out to those people. It sounded like those were maybe not so good of jobs at a certain point during the pandemic as well. So I hope that they're going on to bigger and better things.
I do too.
If Tattered Cover liquidates, is there any stuff in there you'd want to get a sweet deal on?
Other than that
Tattered Cover
sculpture
bookcase? I mean, the sculpture of the guy would be
grandpa
pretty
reading?
great. Yeah.
Can I buy that? Actually, that thing is too large for my home. You could go in your home, Paul.
Yeah.
You have a large living room.
I'll think about it. I'll talk to my wife.
Okay. Well, sad story all around. We'll be watching.
It could be happy again. If we shop there at this holiday season, if we show these creditors that Tattered Cover is still strong and people still love it, Denver could still have a strong bookstore like this again.
Okay.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I buy a lot of cards there and calendars.
That's from what I understand. So Dempsey is offering everyone a severance package, and I'm really glad about that. That seems like the ethical thing to do.
Yeah.
And then there was some talk about like further merch, and I know that seems corporate, and it is. However, that's where we're at. And at the same time, I can't deny, since I love Tattered Cover and I have such a like relationship with it, I do want to buy Tattered Cover merch. I do. Like, because if you go in Barnes & Noble, there's like a billion things you can buy that aren't books. But I actually have no problem with that just because, that would be fun.
Hell yeah.
You got to diversify and also, I mean, they have a brand. They have an iconic brand.
Exactly.
We see this with companies all the time. The brand itself is what's keeping it relevant. Sometimes I wonder if that's like too much of our nostalgia for the Tattered Cover that we once had. Because I have a kid. I want to take him, to Tattered Cover and which we do. We actually get books there pretty often for him. But am I just dragging out something that's inevitably not going to matter for other people? I don't know.
He'll be nostalgic for things you don't even know yet.
I know.
You know?
That's going to be weird. It's like when I hear people nostalgic for Barnes & Noble. And then I remember if you were in the suburbs, that might have been the only place you could get books.
Oh,
so
God.
I get it.
B. Dalton was the big one for me.
There used to
in
be
the
one
mall.
Cherry Creek
My
Mall.
parents would like shop in the mall and I'd be like, goodbye. And I'd go right in the,
Coolest kid at the mall. Excuse me, drop me off at the bookstore.
Yeah. I'm like, if I just had $6, I could buy this book, I'll read as much as I can before they buy their shirts.
Oh my gosh. Secretly, that makes you the coolest kid, honestly.
It wasn't that way at the time.
Yeah.
But I feel that now. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Best of luck to Tattered Cover. I have mixed feelings about it, but I want it to survive and I want the folks who work there to get paid and treated fairly. So.
I want to know what listeners think. You going to shop there this holiday season?
Absolutely. Which is your favorite store? Is there one that you like that currently exists? Do you have an argument for McGregor Square that maybe we're missing? You know? So give us a call on the What's Tattered Cover Worth to You hotline, 720-500-5418. Again, the Tattered Cover Feelings hotline is 720-500-5418. Okay, we're back with our Rocky Mountain highs and lows, sometimes called wins and fails, things that were awesome this week, things that totally sucked. We will start with things that suck so we can end on the things that rule. Paul, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I actually have a very epic fail to discuss this week. So last Sunday, my wife and I are driving home from a weekend getaway in Trinidad.
Mm-hmm.
It was very nice. We drive home on I-25, of course, and no issues, totally fine. We get home. We're greeted by the news that a bridge over I-25 has collapsed. Tragically, a truck driver died.
And derailed
a train. Yeah.
It was a horrifying sight.
Maybe you've seen the pictures on social media or something. It's just awful. It's ugly. It's very sad. That's not even my fail. My fail is I get home. My wife tells me about something called the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. They publish an annual report on the status of bridges across the country. They say that there are 58, quote, structurally deficient bridges in Denver right now.
Oh, and one of them is at Alameda, where I go under the train tracks every day. For sure. It has to be on there. That thing looks like it was built in 1930.
I'll send you the report. We can verify. I kind of want to figure out what these bridges are. I need to know which these bridges are.
I'm not laughing. I'm just, oof. That's real. I thought the part about this story that was concerning to me was they were trying to figure out whose fault it was. Yeah. Whose jurisdiction did the bridge fall under so we can talk to them about
who's not paying to fix this bridge.
Who's not fixing it. That's awful. Also, yeah, my heart goes out to that person's family. Ugh. Well, weird.
Isn't that just like, oh my God.
That's a Paul story. Paul, dig in and come back with the top 10 bridges that suck in Denver or in Colorado and let us know where they are so we can feel terrified of it. Yeah, it's perfect.
That would be fun.
Erica, do you have a fail?
Fail. Well, there's an overall fail that leads to a win. Is that
sure.
A way to go?
Always connect them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the thing that's on my mind a lot as a writer is, obviously banned books. And so people talk a lot about kids' books, or they talk a lot about that in libraries, or the business with Scholastic, which is absolutely a fail. It's not a local fail; it's a national fail. And I think really it truly is about in every instance there are like 10 people collectively causing this.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like the book banning happening across school districts across the country is like 5 pissed parents in a district it's just terrifying to me as like a parent who's, my kid's going to read whatever he wants to read. We are a very literary family in terms of what he gets to do, but like it is like very unsettling that it doesn't take that many people to change curriculums, and not in a good way.
They literally hide under a couple of things. I've unfortunately learned the hard way, and I even did a TikTok about it because I'm very young. And I'm on the TikTok.
Share the account. People want to follow you.
I think it's just ERIKATWURTH, I think.
We'll link to it.
Yeah.
Great.
And essentially, there are a couple of laws that allow for harassment. Basically, there's Section 230, which was upheld by the Supreme Court recently, created in 96 by Clinton to protect the internet. And then there's the elimination of the Fairness Doctrine by Reagan in 86. So in other words, no matter what you publish, it's under the rubric of the op-ed. Obviously, David Foster Wallace did something about this. And what happens is it all combines into nothing that you say or do has consequences online or in life when it comes to talking about writers and writers' books. And so you can, for example, say there's going to be huge protest when it's just 4 crazy trolls on the internet. Wow. And there will be no protest. And there can be no suing because when you're a writer or an institution like Scholastic, what have you, you're a public entity. So if you try to sue, you will be hit with anti-SLAPP, and you will, if you lose, and you probably will because the bar for defamation is so high, you will lose, and you'll have to pay their court fees. And so all these combine to a disaster where a very small group of people can tell complete lies and get their way. And so the win is that something like this happened locally in Douglas County. And people always think of the suburbs as really conservative, and they're probably more conservative than many other places in Denver. But I've actually looked it up. It's about 50-50. But there are people who—
Liberals and conservatives?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the conservatives work harder, and they're more willing to lie about the things.
Yeah.
And so something came up locally in a Douglas, I think it was school district, and the good guys won this time. They were like, nope, we're going to still have these books on the shelves.
Well, and I think it takes
that's great.
parents that believe in free speech also coming to those meetings and facing these people that are telling blatant lies about the content of the books that our kids should have access to.
And adults.
What's this thing about David Foster Wallace? I don't know what you're referring to.
In his, what's funny about David Foster Wallace is if you think of Roxane Gay, she's the master of the personal plus the journalistic essay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really, she kind of sits on David Foster Wallace, who would hate that because where is her big place? The internet, right? But that's exactly what he pioneered. The thing he's probably the best at and known for, beyond big, giant, weird books, are these essays where he did these things for Rolling Stone or what have you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things he talked about. He's look, and I don't think he even understood, that this form would be what it is now in the internet age and who would take it up. And I've never heard Gay say, yes, I got this from Wallace, maybe she didn't, but it's clearly he's the one who I think really popularized it before the internet. But B, also what this means. So the Fairness Doctrine Act, right, before 1986, you had to have two sides, and if you did a gigantic falsehood, you were fined. Now that is not the case. You can say whatever you want. It is an op-ed.
That is so wild.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also, I'm thinking about Roxane Gay as the Black queer woman.
Right. And Foster Wallace is he's literary bro.
Right.
But I love him anyway.
But also she's the beauty of the internet and that access matters.
Yes.
So she had a forum to connect with people who would have maybe not found her work otherwise.
Yep.
Okay. My fails.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bree.
It's local and national. The imminent demise of Bandcamp. Bandcamp is a platform for musicians.
Mm-hmm.
You can sell your own work there. You can sell your own music. During the pandemic, Bandcamp did Bandcamp Fridays where all of the proceeds from your sales went directly to you. So if you bought from an artist on that day, they got everything versus Bandcamp taking a percentage. It wasn't so big that it was a threat to the music industry or to record companies, I should say, but it was an access thing. Again, you could find that obscure Swedish metal band that you like that put out a record on Bandcamp, and you could also buy vinyl from them directly if you wanted to. And it was this really beautiful space. And also it had Bandcamp Daily, which was it was the music magazine arm of it. So it was a lot of music criticism, music theories about genre. Oh, Paul, it's some of the best music writing of the last 20 years.
From Bandcamp?
Yes, Bandcamp
I'm
Daily.
Shocked.
Incredible writers. Some of my Jessica Hopper, Mark Masters, people whose writing I have just adored. And they were publishing things that maybe Spin Magazine would have run 20 years ago.
Ah.
Unfortunately, Bandcamp was sold last year to a large video game company. I had no interest in what they were doing. They were just sold to Song Trader, which is a music licensing company, which in theory has said, oh, this is a new opportunity for all these artists to license their music, which, right, how many of them are going to get that deal and how much they're going to make? Probably not. But at any rate, they laid off 50% of the company this week, and which will make it harder for musicians to use the site as less people are running it. And a lot of those folks that were laid off were people that had started the Bandcamp union. So it sucks all around. It sucks for people.
People that had started the Bandcamp union, a lot.
But they were a large percentage of the folks laid off.
Oh, okay.
So
wow.
Total loss for the music world. The independent music world had really found a home there. And I know a lot of friends that made a good percentage of their living through their Bandcamp sales. And now they will most likely be losing some of that. So
I wonder if is there any alternative? Is there a different service that does something similar?
Not really. There's a lot of philosophizing right now. Could we create the next beautiful thing? MySpace was actually one of the best places for musicians at its height because you could have access to everything about them. It was awesome. It was so genius. So something that is and hopefully someone's working on something. I will put a link to, if you're like me and you have a giant catalog of stuff you've purchased on Bandcamp digitally, there's a you can download a Chrome extension that allows you to pull all that music off and put it on your computer. So you don't have to lose your Bandcamp library. But
you got a big Bandcamp library, Erica?
No, I actually, got Spotify 10 years ago and didn't understand that actually, it seems good in theory. Oh, $10, and at least it goes to some of the artists. But no, it was the death of a bunch of artists. Yeah, and now it's too late because, now I've got so much in there.
Sucks. So all right.
Probably got some singles, some Lucy's on Bandcamp. I think over the years I bought a few tracks on Bandcamp.
I have so many of my friends' albums there that don't exist anywhere else. They're not on Spotify.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm really really sad about it. Okay, we'll talk about wins, good things. Paul, do you have a good thing?
Yes, I do. Give me a minute. My laptop went to sleep. What am I going to pick? Oh, I had so many wins this week. This was a good week, I felt like, in Denver. Good. Let's just say that for a second, huh?
Okay.
Pretty good, except for that train derailment. My win is Colorado Parks and Wildlife park manager at John Martin Reservoir State Park, which is down in southeast Colorado, Dan Kermer, because his team saved a lake near Lamar from zebra mussels. There were zebra mussels in the reservoir, and I hear from our producer, Olivia, who is from Lake Country.
She is from Lake Country. She keeps us up to date on lake.
They were not in the reservoir, but he saved the reservoir from this
invasive species.
Yeah, I'm seeing a picture. It does look like they were maybe on the shore of the reservoir.
He saw the warning sign.
He saw it. And he was like, this is serious. We're going to lose the whole reservoir to these zebra mussels. They're going to take over. Apparently, they've already taken over one of these other reservoirs. But yeah, it's a big deal. There's not much water down there. We can't lose a reservoir to zebra mussels.
That one astute gentleman working for Parks and Wildlife was like, hey, something dangerous is on the horizon. Zebra mussels.
It could have been a problem, but thanks to Dan Kermer, we're good.
Good stuff.
At least there. I'll put a link in the show notes. This is a fun picture of him too.
Okay.
He's wearing sunglasses. He looks very cool.
I'm also wearing sunglasses right now because
it's a weird record today.
I left my regular glasses in the car.
This is why I stopped wearing glasses. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. I have a giant head, and if I just keep putting glasses on it,
squeezing my face right now. Okay, so Erica, your win was that some people fight back against wild people trying to get school districts to ban books, and we can actually fight back. Mine is the new Meow Wolf bar.
Oh,
Sips
you went.
With a Z. I went. I want to disclose too. They are an advertiser for us. This has nothing to do with that, but I want to put that out there to be transparent. Olivia and I went last week to their soft opening. Man, it is super cool. It's cool. It feels like it's an extension of Meow Wolf, but it has a different vibe. It has the thing that I think a lot of museums and immersive things have figured out, which is once you're done in the exhibit itself, you want somewhere to go and kick it and talk to whoever you were with about what you experienced, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like MCA has the beautiful rooftop cafe you can go to. This to me is a similar thing in that it's a cool bar and they have a great non-alcoholic drinks menu that is actual mocktails.
What'd you have?
Oh God, it was so fancy. Olivia, do you remember what it was? It was fig, bitter, figgy Stardust, maybe?
They all had such whimsical names.
They had whimsical names. They had 40 ingredients. I mean, it was we watched this mixologist make the drinks.
Are you a Meow Wolf person, Erica?
Yes, I did a room for them. I collaborated.
That's
they
right.
had a lot of, I think their original idea, I'm not sure they 100% understood the nuances, but their original idea was to have, unlike in Santa Fe, a lot of indigenous artists. Most of us, though, to be clear, are of some Mexican indigenous descent and are not members of federally recognized tribes. I don't think they understood those nuances, but I think that's a good thing, actually, that kind of diversity. But yes, I did do a room for them that was indigenous futurisms based off of the work of Anishinaabe descent scholar named Grace Dillon. So, and it's
Did you collaborate with another artist?
Yep. Their name was Theron.
Theron Zimmerman.
Yes. And
That's
Theron
awesome.
was very sincere in the sense of, I was like, okay, I want this like other planet and it's going to be red. And here are the sciencey things. And here's this video of me as a character and my cousin who's, had ancestors die at Sand Creek, and my friend Stephen Graham Jones, who actually is a member of a federally recognized tribe, in this tree. And we're all going to talk about past, future, and present, Denver. And it was super cool. And Theron really just patiently, worked on my vision and I got all these different things that were, for example, Native American architecture all across, not just in the United States, but everywhere. And they brought that to life. And it was amazing. It's a cool little room.
That's awesome.
Where in the building is it?
I want to say it's purposefully disorienting. So even though I did the room,
I can't find it.
I'm like, is it on the second or the third
I've
floor?
had that experience so many times where I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been here 10 times and I can't find the place.
Yes.
I'm trying to show my friend.
Yes. And actually put Meow Wolf in the new novel because I love Numina because it's like
Really?
so fantasy, geeky wonderland, So yeah, it's just a brief scene, but I couldn't help myself.
I love that. Theron is a co-founder of Rainbow Dome.
Okay.
So the art-inspired roller skating party. So that's so cool. Well, yeah, go to Meow Wolf and then check out
Sips with a Z.
Sips with a Z. It's got this real bombed out feel. It's like almost like the vaporwave thing was really popular. This was actually one of the last pieces that Matt King, whose work is all over Meow Wolf. Unfortunately, he died by suicide 2 years ago. Yeah. But this was one of the last things that he worked on helping develop.
The bar?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
The design of the bar. It's gorgeous. So nice work, Meow Wolf. It's beautiful.
Wow. Okay. Where's the Z?
The Sips with a Z?
Yeah, where's the Z in the Sips with a Z?
It's not in there. It's
what
Sips,
do you mean?
S-I-P-S, and then it's with a Z.
Just like the words with a Z?
Huh? That's what the sign says. Okay. You can
That's
see
very Meow Wolf
you can see my reel that I
Oh.
made on Instagram. Olivia's been inspiring me to be an Instagram girly.
Can't wait to see that.
Erica, thank you so much for coming back.
Yes.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Bree. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Paul Caroli, Olivia Jewel Love, and Lizzie Goldsmith. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. I'm Bree Davies, your host. Our music is by Los Mocachetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. Oh, and Paul wants to specially thank Jengbo Shim, Associate Professor of Finance and Risk Management at CU Denver, for explaining how the Tattered cover bankruptcy is going to work. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram at CityCastDenver, and tell the nurses at Stout Street Clinic about us next time you see them. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. Bye! I need one more thing. Book bands? Bad bridges. She's a bad bridge. She's a bad bridge in the streets. She's a structurally unsound bridge in the streets.